No one in the chess universe saw this one coming. They're in New York. It's the World Chess Championship for Rapid and Blitz Chess, and this is day one. With the black pieces in this game, we've got Magnus Carlsen, and playing with white, it's the youngster Denis, a man they gave a 0% chance of winning the Champions Chess Tour finals in 2023. But he's come a long way. What a player he's become, and he kicks off this game with pawn to d4.
I mean, d4 move, it just wouldn't even cross my mind.
Magnus responds with the solid d5. We get the explosive c4, and c6 starts us on a Slav, and we get the exchange. Magnus actually falls asleep in his chair. Luckily someone's there to fish slap him awake. He does so, takes back. It's got a reputation for being very dull, very boring, but Magnus tries to sharpen it after Denis develops that London bishop. Usually a favourite of Magnus, these kind of white structures, but now he's on the receiving end. We get e3, a6 is very standard. This rook hits the open file, it's where they belong, and after bishop f5, are we going to see Denis obliges a massive Jenga tower on the F-file. Denis only goes and unlocks himself a day out at the zoo with Andrea Botes. Very lucky guy. Now we see e6 played, and queen b3 goes after that pawn, tender as a fillet steak. You can go bishop b4 here, blocked away. These are standard, well-trodden paths, but Magnus plays a very weird move, rook to a7. Now it's been seen many times, and although it looks passive, if you ever liberate this pawn, then the rook can come to life in this sort of way. But okay, long way to go yet. These bishops develop into the game. Denis castles the king, and now Magnus does not castle. He's not interested in a king safety fist bump, exploded out. He completely forgets which way his pieces are supposed to move, and the game now really sharpens up, because after knight a4, we see those two knights cancelling each other out on the dark squares. Magnus reveals one of his big points of not castling. He slams down the g-pawn in an aggressive manner here. Andrea starts spinning the beats. We've got an absolute fight on our hands. Now, does the bishop retreat? No, it steps forward, hits rookie in the corner, and Magnus really shows his intentions, as if he hadn't already, because you could take here, right? This is how the line could go. But the problem is, when you're looking to win, pieces start getting hoovered off the board. Here's one sample, something like this, and okay, we've got some kind of steady equilibrium. This is about 10 more moves of play, but this is quite level. It's difficult for any player to prove some imbalance that will get a big advantage, although you do have some different stuff going on. Anyway, Magnus wanted pieces on the board because he'd already made 3 draws going into this game. Too many if you want to win the tournament. So instead, he now castles the king, but it's more risky when you've thrust that g-pawn down the board already. So Denis now retreats the bishop, keeping the pieces on the board. Magnus expands once more. Full Prawnageddon wants to trap that one, so h3 gives some wiggle room. Magnus now switches plans. You know, the trap not possible, so he instead plays g4 for the score. Gary the debt collector just banging down the door, trying to eat the king, using this pawn as a hook now, and so we see takes, pawn recaptures, and where do you jump with the pony? You know, forward, backwards, what's the best plan? Denis finds it. It's actually knight h2, and the nice point to this is that the g-pawn has become overextended. Now Magnus knows this. He first defends, but queen d1 intensifies the pressure. Nothing you can do, but he reveals his point. He wants to just attack, throw fuel on the fire. He starts with knight e4, looking to mangle the structure, leave Denis with one that only a mother could love, and after bishop f4, Denis not allowing it, we see bishop g5, bringing those pieces into the game, but Denis, undeterred, goes bang eats up that pawn faster than Vichy's morning snack of mushrooms. And after Magnus takes here, compromising the white pawn structure, yes, we see one of his big points after king g7. It's not the most precise. You know, Stock Sushi wanted to just retreat that bishop here because it allows white to now take here, also mangle black's pawns, and then play some very cool and calm defense, starting with pawn to g3. And this is the big difference. White's got that cementing, gluing g-pawn. Very nice. Takes away the queen invasion on h4, and the simple plans here: re-enter the game with the knight, give the king some luft on g2. So Magnus carries on with his attacking plan. We get knight to f3. This rook begrudgingly enters the game. You know, it takes a long time to spin back around. King g2 played, preparing rook h1, and after queen f6, this knight comes back from its death way over in Siberia and attacks that central pawn. Magnus feeling the heat as he covers that one. We see queen d3, nice activating move, connects the rooks, prepares to challenge the h-file. So rook h5, Magnus whispering away, do you even rook lift, bro? And he wants to stack all of his heavy pieces on that side, kill the white monarch. So rook h1 fights against it just in time. Queen h6 intensifies the pressure, you know, leaving this one to still cover the center. Now this is really nice. Denis doesn't play in too much of a trigger happy way. How many of us are taking here, right? Queen recaptures and then going rook h1. Lovely jubbly. Get that one out of there. We'll look at this. Excuse me, you can see the eval bar there. Stockfish absolutely pooping its pants because there's a nice tactic for black, and it's a queen sacrifice or temporary one, because after king recaptures, you take here with check. You just can't get away from fork Vegas, and black picks up the queen there in d3. So this is the problem with trying to take too soon and then challenge the file, though you could take immediately, but none of it played. Instead, we see queen e3, Denis alive to the tricks. Now rook h8, 19 points of pressure barreling down, so you've got to respond. Takes was played, queen recaptures, threatening mate in 2, starting with queen h3, king g1. This would be mate, and so you have to do this, block the way, and thankfully there's no g-pawn to kind of throw more fuel on the fire. So instead, we see knight f6 from Magnus. He ducks back, covers his center, looks for a future knight g4, and now a brave move by Denis, but a great move, rook h1. Looks a bit scary to self-pin the knight, you know, if it ever moved, you're crashing through here as black, but also it sets up tactics, and Magnus just not alive to them properly, though his position's already very tough. He goes king to f8 here, and there's already a tactic in the air that white could execute, but we don't see it straight away. Instead, Denis starts with queen to d3 here, hitting the weakened f-pawn. It's covered by the knight, and now he finds this tactical shot. Do pause if you want to test your skills here. Can you take down the world #1, Magnus Carlsen? Well done if you saw the move of knight g6 check. What an absolute banger. We haven't seen a move that bold since Magnus and Hikaru decided to dine out down Wall Street the night before the tournament. What a night they had, but more importantly, what a night on the board. How to respond here. Now, if you play queen takes, you know, to get out of the line of fire, well, this is the point. White takes the rook here, so you've now won an exchange, and the resulting position is just crushing. Not only have you got the exchange, but an extra pawn, and this structure here is horrible. Just so easy to attack. You're strategically busted. So Magnus, desperate to mix it up, takes with the pawn instead, sacrifices his queen, takes with this one, and he's gonna play for tricks. Knight e2 first played. Excellent horseplay from Denis. We see king f7 activating, king g1, or knight g1 rather, spinning around, and so Magnus mixes it up here by throwing the kitchen sink at Denis before the knight can hit this square. We see captures, not forced, but it just keeps things clean. No passed pawn, etc. for you, Magnus. Now we see takes, hitting hitting f4. The knight now sidelines itself, but it does an important job of defending. Maybe one day you check, but not for you. King g6 comes, also covers f5, so frees up this one from babysitting, and after queen b3 we see it spring into life. Now you could go b5, but then queen a3, still the double attacks are on the way, the invasions. The queen is just overpowered in these positions. Exposed king, many targets, fairly uncoordinated pieces. It's not good. So instead Magnus goes knight c6, ditches the pawn, but takes this one, going for the play around the white king. It's the best policy. Yes, a second one drops. The a pawn's running like Forrest Gump, but at least he gets a check. He's going to try some funny business. The king steps back. Rook h4 tries to repeat the position, but D-Laz having none of it, slides back with the queen here, hits Magnus's knight as well as defending his own, so the knight drops back to e6, targets the weakened f pawn, but now a check is played. Cool and calm. The rook blocks, and because the king's not on g2, no skewer issues, so the queen slides away once more, and now with the knight attacked, it's surprising that Magnus didn't find the move of knight e4. He's still horribly lost here, white's killing it, but it mixes it up a bit more, right? Maybe you push d4 in a minute, who knows? You try and make some nonsense happen, but ultimately these pawns are winning out the day, right? Even regardless of this epic attacking force. However, he didn't see this move or decided it wasn't best. He plays this move and it allows this exchange of prisoners here, but after this and king e2, rook h1 activating, we see a big problem, and it's a4. These pieces just completely frozen and paralyzed. Only the rook's playing in the game, but that's never going to win out against the queen. Rook a2 played to hit the b pawn, but queen b5 covers all bases, and Magnus actually resigns the game.
And trust me, it's an absolute banger.
Okay,
It's a
let's
game changer.
Mushrooms.
Banger.
Mushrooms.
Procedure,
Mushrooms.
Banger.
lock. This is first what I do.
You know, if he just waits around with the king, does nothing, then the a-pawn ultimately marches, escorted by the queen, and if you try and bring in the knight, well then this is going to drop and the king exposes. Don't do it straight away. You run into this tactic. That wouldn't be very nice. You can't get out the forking way, but you don't have to take straight away. You could go queen b3, kick away the rook, then take here, I think is okay. Yes, it is. And you can't capture because of check and winning a rook. These are the kind of themes, the kind of problems, why the queen just wins out in such positions. This, the final one. Magnus finishes the day on 2.5 points. Absolutely shocking by his standards. Hard to remember a time he ever started a chess tournament so badly. Hope you enjoyed this one. Smash subscribe if you did, and check out the video on screen for another epic game of chess.